Hey you guys, welcome to my channel. This is Tanya. If this is your first time tuning in, thank you so much and welcome. For all of my loyal viewers, always nothing but love. Thank you so much. In this video, I'm going to show you how to file your very own divorce. We will go through the entire petition step by step. So without any further ado, let's get into it. So to get started, I'm going to be using Texas as the example state, but there's a link in the description to every state in America. We've already done the homework for you. All you have to do is click the link. If you're filing with kids or without kids, there's different links for you to click on for your state. So let's go ahead and head over to the Texas website for filing your own divorce. These forms is everything you need to file your divorce. All of this is instructions. So if you ever get confused, just refer to the instructions. It will tell you exactly what you need to do. The first set of forms are indigency forms, and this is like the fee waiver. If you can't afford to pay for your divorce, you just fill out this form and your fees will be waived. So fill out this information. It's going to ask for your income, whether or not you receive any public assistance, any spousal support, child support, unemployment, whatever you receive, you enter those amounts here. And there's a second part where you enter all of your expenditures. And then you just simply sign, have it notarized, and date it. If you need a notary, if your state is shut down, you can't get anywhere, you can have it notarized online. I have another video that shows you how to have your documents notarized online. Okay, this is the first part of this document. You will print these forms out. Don't worry about having to type everything in, but you will need to print it out and you can hand write it in. Some states have the fillable forms. Texas has the forms where you would need to print them out and hand write all of the information in. That's all you need to do. You don't need to type anything, use a computer. Print the documents out and hand write everything in. Write neatly, of course, so the judge can read what you have written, but don't worry about it being fancy or looking legal, because remember, you're doing this pro se. That means you're doing it on your own, so you don't have to worry about any fancy petitions that an attorney would write for you. Just simply hand write everything in. So you are the petitioner, so you will put your first, last name here, first, middle, and last name. Put your complete name on these forms. The respondent is your spouse. The court name and district, don't worry about that. Court number, you will get those things once you turn in your documents at the clerk's office. And remember, always check your local clerk's office. I have that also in the description. If for some reason I didn't find your states, just simply Google the clerk office in your county and call them or go on the website. Keep in mind, they will not give you any legal advice, but if they have any specific local forms that you need to include with your petition, they can tell you that, but they cannot give you any legal advice. So just keep that in mind. So once you get to parties, number one, basically you're just going to enter your name again. So there's going to be a lot of repetitive stuff as you're filling this out. You're going to be constantly writing your name or your address and things like that. So here you either put the last three of your driver's license number or the last three of your social. You don't have to put both, but if you're feeling good and you want to do both, hey, do them both, but it's one or the other. Your spouse name goes here. And then here you would just put whether or not you want a constable, a sheriff, to serve your husband or your wife, or you can use any other delivery service. But if you get qualified, if you get approved for the waiver, that includes the constable, that includes the sheriff serving your spouse. You can just select here. I don't think my spouse will sign a waiver of service. I will have a sheriff, constable, process server, or the clerk serve my husband with the original petition at this address. So then you would enter the address of where your spouse is here, or you can enter the work address. So it says if it's a work address, name the business here. So you will put the business address here, the name of the business here. so that the constable knows where to serve your spouse. So if you and your spouse have came to an agreement and you guys both want the divorce, both of you guys are willing to sign, then just select here. I think my spouse will sign a waiver. Do not send the sheriff or constable. So if you're having an amicable separation, amicable divorce, then you don't need the sheriff to serve. Just select this box here and just put your home address. Or again, you can serve him yourself. He can sign it, notarize it, and turn it in. Keep in mind, we'll get to that part later. In Texas, you do not turn in the signature of your spouse at the same time that you turn in the original petition. So you would turn in your original petition first, and then at least one day after that. So if you turn it in on Monday, your spouse can sign it on Tuesday, and you can turn it in on Tuesday or any time after that. But you cannot turn in the signature of your spouse at the same time you turn in the original petition, or else you'll have to do it over. So just turn in the petition without your spouse signature, and then take the original petition back that the clerk will give it back to you. They're going to stamp it and give it back to you, and then you take it to your spouse and have them sign it and then turn it back in. But when we get to that part, I'll say, okay, this is the part I'm talking about. You have to qualify to file in a certain jurisdiction. Jurisdiction is just a fancy word for state. So to be able to qualify in your state, in your county, you need to have lived in that county for at least 90 days, or your spouse have lived in the county for 90 days. So one of these have to apply. Your spouse has lived in the county for 90 days. So your spouse could have moved to another county. But if you are still in the same county and you've been there for 90 days, or if you move to another county and you've been living there for 90 days, it's all about who files first. So if your husband moved to another state and he's been living there for 6 months or 3 months, whatever, and he decides to file the papers first, so that jurisdiction will have control over this divorce. So you will need to either correspond back and forth or drive back and forth to that county. So if you know that you guys are wanting a divorce and you want it to be in your jurisdiction, then you need to file first. And this applies to Texas. Every state is different, but as far as jurisdiction goes, there's jurisdiction rules, state rules for every state. Every state has their own rules, but this is for Texas, and a lot of states have these same qualifications. So again, the forms for every state is in the description below in the link. So just click your state and see what the qualifications are for being able to file for a divorce in your jurisdiction. You have to show residency. This is jurisdiction. This is the county. Here, I have lived in Texas for the last 6 months. Or my spouse have lived in Texas for the last 6 months. My spouse does not reside in Texas, but Texas is the last state where we live together as a married couple. The petition is filed less than 2 years after we separated. So check all that apply. If none applies, just select none applies. If you have a protective order, select B, and then you would enter the county and state and the cause number of your protection order. If you do not have one, just simply select no and move on. So if your spouse has filed paperwork asking for a protective order against you, but the judge decided not to give him one, you put in the information where your spouse put that in. So if there's any type of protection order issue going on, you would need to enter it there. Either your spouse doesn't have one, you have one, whatever the situation is. This is what this area is all about. So you would just fill it in here. If it doesn't apply to you, just move on. Marriage and grounds for divorce. So you will put your marriage date here, the date you guys were married, whether or not you have children. This particular petition is for no children, no property. So this is a simple one, but you still, if there's anything, your car or that you guys purchased together, you can decide who's going to keep the car, and you would need to enter that here. So if you owned anything before you were married, This is Texas now. If you own anything before you were married, you would enter it here. So it's not community property, it's separate property. I own the following separate personal property before I was married, or I received the personal property as a gift or inheritance during my marriage. So if it was a gift to you or you inherited something during your marriage, it's separate property. So you need to enter that here. And this is the property that you want to receive, or that you want to keep, and this is something that you inherited. So you just separate. If you inherited it, you put it here. If you owned it prior, you put it here. So if you have any other money or personal property that you own before your marriage, enter it here and be as detailed as you can. Anything that you inherited during the marriage, list it here. If you received any personal injury money that occurred during the marriage that is not for lost wages or medical expenses, enter it here. So then you have to figure out if you want to keep your name. If you want to keep your name, you select here, I'm asking the court to change my name. If you want to keep your name because you have so many accolades that you've gotten under your name, you can say I want to keep my name, and then you just select whichever one you prefer, whether you're going to keep your name or go back to your maiden name. It's up to you. And then your prayer to the court is that everything that you put in this petition, you would like it granted. That's your prayer to the court, is that you grant me the divorce and everything that I've entered into this petition. Ultimately, it's up to the judge, but this is what you would turn in. This is the original divorce form. You would need one, your spouse would need one, and one for the court. 3 is what you need. Okay, so you sign this if you and your husband is amicable. So you're basically waiving the service of the judge having to figure out, you own a home, who gets the home, who gets the kids. If it's uncontested, that just means that you guys agree to the divorce, you agree to the terms, so you will fill out this waiver of service, and that's what the waiver of service is. And this is the part I was telling you about. At least 1 day after the original petition for divorce has been filed with the clerk's office. So you do not sign this part right here. You do not sign anything on this form. This is a 2-page form. You do not sign this until 1 day after you submit the original divorce form, which ends here where it says 505. It ends there. This is a new form. This is the waiver. This is basically your spouse agreeing to everything that's in the petition. So you're telling the judge that everything in this petition is what we both want. There's no disagreements at all. The other party is willing to sign. So he would need to do that. This is for the respondent. Remember, you're the petitioner. This is the respondent. This is the spouse that needs to sign. So this is all of his information. Like, you enter your information in the original petition because you're the filer. But now the respondent, your spouse, needs to enter his information here, and you guys need to have it notarized right here. This is the part that needs to be notarized and turned in at least 1 day after. So after you file, you have to wait a day. It can be longer, but you have to wait at least a day after the original filing. If you turn this in with your original petition, you will have to do it over. So to save yourself some time, just be sure and turn in this part after 1 day after you've submitted the original petition. This is the order. Whenever you file a petition with the courts, always attach an order, because if you don't attach an order, there's nothing for the judge to sign. So this is the order. Make sure you fill this out and you turn this in. You can turn this in with the original petition. You can turn this in. It's fine to go with the original petition, but the waiver goes 1 day after. Most of this is filled out by the judge. So the petitioner, you can fill out the petitioner and the respondent, and you should have a court number by then, and the county. You can fill all of that part in. And the date of the hearing, the judge can fill that out. the petitioner name. You can fill this out. You'll basically be helping the judge, but I mean, the judge can fill that part out, the respondent's name, but you can totally fill it in. The judge will check here whether you were present, whoever was present. So this order is really for the judge to fill out. Right here it says the court fills out this box. So do not help the judge out per se. I'm saying help the judge out by filling out the other parts. Do not touch this shaded area at all. That's for the judge. Okay, let's scroll down. So this is the order where it says the court confirms that husband owns the following property as his separate personal property. So this is where the husband will enter his property. Put the husband's property here. Okay. If there's any community property, put it here. This is where you would put things that you guys own together. But in these lines, you will specify who will keep what. For example, a bank account, but not real property, such as a house or land. You don't put house or land here. You put banking information here. Husband will keep the following personal property still held jointly. So if you guys have a bank account together and you're going to remove yourself off, then you put that information there. This will be the husband's account only. Okay, if the husband has any debt that's separate from you, any debt husband incurred after separation, so you put the separation date here. So say once you guys separated, he went and bought a brand new truck. Okay, you would put that information here so that you're not held responsible for it. If he has any student loans, any income tax debt that's his alone and not yours, you enter that information here. Okay, if your husband has a retirement fund, you will select yes or no. State the current value of the retirement fund here. Identify or describe the retirement fund that your husband has. So if you're going to split the retirement 50-50, you select it here and you put the amount the husband will keep, the amount the wife will keep, or let the husband keep his retirement. You select here 100% to the husband. Okay, so now the wife is going to put her information here. The wife puts anything that she owned before the marriage here. If she received any vehicles or anything as a gift, inheritance during the marriage, put it here. You're going to need VIN numbers. Fill it out completely. Year, make, model, VIN numbers. Any other personal or real property, any other personal property that the wife owned, money or personal property, put it here. Before the marriage, not real property such as house and land, you don't put that here. If you inherited anything, the wife, you put it here. Same thing here for any personal injury, monies occurred during the marriage that was not for lost wages or medical expenses, you would put it there. So if the wife has any bank accounts, any trucks, motorcycles, you would list it all here, including the VIN numbers. This is for community property only. So things that are in both of you guys' name. And then number 5, you will say the wife will keep the following property still held. So remember, stay organized. You will get your turn per se. The husband has a section, the wife has a section. So only enter if it says the husband, put husband information only. Don't put anything about the wife. Just answer the question as it pertains to you. Don't say, okay, I own the truck, but my wife will own it. No, the wife has her section, the husband has his section. So don't combine or convolute anything. Just answer the questions. It's plain and simple. Don't overthink it, because that's when you'll get confused and make mistakes. Same thing, questions about the wife's retirement fund. For example, we just talked about the husband's retirement fund. That's strictly answer the questions pertaining to the husband. The wife turn is coming. Same thing. How much is it? The value, state the value of it, and who's holding it. Where's the retirement fund being held? If you're going to go 50-50 or award the wife her entire retirement. So if you agree that the wife is going to keep hers, hubby's going to keep his, both of you just select 100% to wife or 100% to husband. If the wife has any debt, student loans that are separate from her husband's, credit cards that are only in her name, student loan bills, medical bills, income tax, list everything here and list the date that you guys separated. So if she went out and bought a convertible after you guys separated, enter that here. So anything after the separation date goes here. And your student loans and credit cards and things like that. So if you want to, if the husband changed their name, things are very unconventional these days, it's not unheard of. Husband back to name used before marriage as it appears. So if the husband changed his name, some people now put both names together, the husband's and the wife's name. If the husband wants to go back to the name he had before marriage, select this box, put the name here. Wife back to name used before marriage as it appears below, same thing. Wife maiden name that goes there. So some things, like I said, will be redundant, but just answer it as you go. And as you can see, it's all information about you. It's nothing hard, especially if it's uncontested. Amicable, don't worry about it. Like, you can totally fill this out yourself without any stress. Just don't overthink it. The final order, this is where the judge will sign. This is your final order. So you would always need to keep this. This is the record. Once the judge signs here, you sign, print and sign, the respondent print and sign, addresses, you're all good. That ends the divorce. This is just a certificate of last known mailing address. Fill this form out and include it with the original packet. Last known address, in case there's any additional information, they have all of you, both of you guys' address here. If you need to put in a change of address later, say you move after, you put in your original petition, one of you guys move, you would fill this out and submit it to the court so that they have your last known address. If they need any additional information, this is for military status affidavit. You will fill this out. This is for military, if you're in the military. And also have it notarized. And that's it. This is all there is to it, to your DIY divorce. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below and I will answer them as soon as I can. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.